I used to be way too slow to make moves in leadership. And now as the company's grown, I can't do that anymore because it harms 10,000 other people, 11,000 other people, keeping one bad leader in the wrong seat. So whereas before it maybe just affected me and a couple other people, now it affects an enormous amount of people if I leave the wrong person in the seat.
Welcome to the Leader's Mindset, where we bring you conversations with leaders who are making an impact in business and our communities. Today, I'm here with Matt Ebert. He's the founder and CEO of Crash Champions, which he grew from nothing to over $3 billion, and he's going to share with us how he built a culture of empowerment and growth in that company. Thanks for being here today, Matt.
Thanks for having me, Jason. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about how you grew this company, but how you did it through good leadership and building your people in addition to building a great company. So let's start out at the beginning. Tell us how you started out fixing your own car to becoming an entrepreneur and turning that into a $3 billion business.
That's a big, long story, so I'll give you the quick cliff notes. Yeah, I literally got into the industry by accident. I wrecked my car when I was 16, and I knew somebody in the small town I lived in central Illinois that could show me how to fix it. Asked him to show me how to fix mine, and then continued to work on other cars with him after school. Got a job with him after I graduated high school. So that was my entry into the industry, literally by accident. Ended up in my mid-20s partnering with a gentleman who was my boss on the body shop, the first one. And we were partners for 15 years before he was ready to retire. So at that point, was able to buy him out. And then I started to grow pretty rapidly, grew as much as I could on my own. That would have been from 2014 to 2019. So kind of grew regionally in the Chicago area to 11 locations. Looked for an investment in 2019, brought in a private equity investment. So since then, I've grown it mostly through acquisition. In 2019 to today, we're 650 locations across 38 states.
That's great. And I do want to get into the lessons you learned from getting private equity inventors later on. But right now, I want to ask you, what was that first car you fixed?
That first car was a Chrysler Laser, which is similar to a Dodge Daytona.
Okay, very cool. That sounds fun. All right, so let's dial it back to those beginning days, the early days of starting the company. What was it like starting the company, and when you took over from that previous mentor and boss, and what did you feel like you needed to change to meet your goals with the company?
Well, my goals have always kind of evolved. I mean, literally, I just wanted to own my own business was the first goal, and then just try to make a paycheck and a living at it. So really, it was just that simple at first. And then because of our partnership arrangement, my partner had a few other shops besides the one we had together, and he didn't really want to grow it. So literally for a long time there, even though we were great partners, was kind of stuck as far as growing the business, in that he didn't really want to grow another location or continue to grow it, but wasn't quite ready to retire. So I was the minor partner at that time, because partnerships are usually you need money or you need somebody to run it. I was the one who needed money, and he was the one who needed someone to run it. So it was a great partnership. But our industry started to consolidate in that time. So I was kind of watching other companies come in and grow, especially in the Chicago market. It was the most consolidated in the country at the time. And so I felt like I was kind of missing that train. But little did I know how much opportunity there truly was. So, over that time, as I was watching others do it, I knew that once we got to a point to where I did or was able to buy him out, I kind of had a plan then to grow it as quickly as I could. In a consolidating industry, especially one like ours, which is so much heavily influenced by insurance, because most most of the customers are making insurance claims to get their cars fixed. A little bit of the dynamics of the industry shifted too, because there's so much efficiency from the insurance partners to partner with national companies where they can kind of get consistent quality across the country. They really get a lot of administrative tasks hand over to us as we self-manage them, and we're able to give them consistency, efficiency, and some cost savings. That doing it through single shop networking across the country is a lot more difficult. So kind of the industry's been headed that way. And so just as it was in the beginning, creating a job, it also became like, I kind of felt this is where the industry's headed, a little bit of survival rather than ambition in the beginning as to why I wanted to grow it.
Yeah, and that's a pretty common story in mature industries like yours. So it really became a matter of survival, a matter of either be absorbed or maybe put out of business or take on growth yourself.
That's how I viewed it. Yeah, it's maybe not as crazy awesome of a story as, I always dreamed to be a huge national company one day, but it really isn't true. I didn't always dream of being a national company. I just was exactly how you described it. Didn't want to get consumed by others in the industry, wanted to grow, wanted to survive, and so did what was necessary to position my company for where the industry was headed.
Yeah, I think it's a great case study, because we talk about these maturing industries in business school, and we may do a case study on like something like the advertising industry back in like the 70s and 80s, right? And that's very abstract. This is a very real example people can look at, especially if they're a small business owner or entrepreneur, of saying, am I in the kind of industry where I need to grow or potentially get out of this business?
Yep, exactly true. It happens in all industries. I'm sure to some degree. I see it now happening in service businesses, from roofing to HVAC guys to electric and plumbing. So it's not just automotive; it's a lot of service industries. You see it with dental offices, med spas. So it's definitely not unique to the collision industry.
100%. So you started out working on cars in the beginning, and then you were running a shop and then a couple of shops. What's changed about the way you look at leadership from the early days to running a big company like you do now?
Yeah, it's amazing, what you don't know, and you learn along the way. I think what people part of it is what keeps me up at night. None of this can be accomplished without the team around me. To your question, there's several things. One thing that I had right all along is I always sought to bring people around that were smarter than me or had done things that I haven't done. So for example, when we went from 13 shops to we were doing a couple acquisitions to bring us into the 39 shops all at once. Sought out a COO at that time who had been running a few hundred shops. And so there's an example of, even though it was a step backwards for him for a moment as to how much he was running, was able to talk him into coming and joining us and bringing somebody around me who had done it before. But I would say that leadership is such a key piece of growth. From a single location, it needs a good leader in there or the good people will leave, to as you're growing the company, you need good leadership to help avoid making mistakes. It's a big cultural piece of the company. I would say it's key. And probably the biggest lesson I learned is I used to be, because I like people so much, because I want to give people all the chance in the world, I used to be way too slow to make moves in leadership. And now as the company's grown, I can't do that anymore, because it harms 10,000 other people, 11,000 other people, keeping one bad leader in the wrong seat. So whereas before it maybe just affected me and a couple other people, now it affects an enormous amount of people if I leave the wrong person in the seat.
Yeah, I want to underline a couple of numbers that you talked about here. 10 or 11,000 people. That's a big organization to be responsible for. And as the CEO, at the end of the day, it's all on you. But I want to go back to something you said. You said you brought in at one time you had 13 shops and then you brought in 39 more. Are those numbers right?
A jump to 39 more from 13.
A jump to 39.
Yep.
So you jumped from 13 to 39, but you in one fell swoop, you grew your number of shops by almost 300%.
Yes. Yep.
Which is, I mean, if you're not a big company, that's kind of insane, right?
Yeah, it was interesting. You know, how that happened was the private equity company that I ended up taking on as a partner wanted in the industry really badly, and so they were also talking to another company in Southern California at the same time they were talking to me. One, you know, them not knowing if they would be the partner that I chose, them not knowing if they would be the other company's partner either. We're looking at all opportunities. Once we had an agreement, once we did our deal, they then told me about the other one they were looking at and basically asked if I wanted to do it, you know, if we wanted to do it together. So they wouldn't have invested in it after we did our deal without me. So they presented the deal. And then it really changed the dynamic, because at first we were talking about just growing regionally in the Midwest. And then I kind of looked at it, well, let's do it differently. Let's go. And now we'll be, you know, a significant size company in 2 major markets in the US. Let's go about it that way. It was a good fit with the ownership of that company out there. They were looking to pull the majority of their money out and didn't want to run it anymore, whereas I was the opposite. I was leaving my money in and wanted to continue to run it and grow it. So it ended up working out because of the circumstances of those owners and myself too. So it just ended up not being planned, but opportunity at the right time, right circumstances, and we did it. And we did that in conjunction with a small acquisition we were planned in Columbus, Ohio. So yeah, it was a big jump, and then tested right out of the gate too, because we did that in March 2nd of 2020. So here I am, excited, as you pointed out, growing the company 300%. And then 2 weeks later, as we all know, COVID shut down the world. So I'm a collision repair company, and the whole world's being told to stay at home, not drive, not go anywhere. So they certainly weren't leaving their homes much, and they certainly weren't having that many accidents. So it was a little bit of a test right out of the gate, because, you know, for us, accidents went down to 50%. We were fixing 50% of what we were fixing 2 weeks earlier. So it was a big challenge right out of the gate.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the deal was a win-win for everybody. And while March 2020 wasn't great for anybody's business, and certainly this was a big hit to your revenue for a few months, it did give you time to build that leadership team that you needed to run such a big operation.
It did, yeah. And you know, it starts with 1 and then 2. But definitely along the way, a lot of the team has stuck with it and grown, and a lot of the team has hit their ceiling, and we had to either move on or, you know, they ended up taking lesser roles in the company. Usually the taking lesser roles is a tough one to pull off, because we all have egos. We all, you know, taking a perceived step backwards is tough. So sometimes it has worked, but the majority of the time when individuals have hit their ceiling, we ended up having to part ways, usually as friends, though.
It sounds like for those folks who kind of reach their ceiling, you've helped them find a soft landing somewhere, whether it's within your company or somewhere else.
Yeah, as much as we can, for sure. It doesn't do anybody any good for it to be confrontational if it doesn't need to be.
Yeah, agreed. So, you talked before how important people are, right? This has been the thrust of what we've been talking about the last couple of minutes, how important the people are to growing something into something this big and maintaining it and continuing to grow it. What's some of the training you do with your emerging leaders to help them grow into their new roles to help build the company up?
Yeah, we're in a position really where we have to train it no matter what. The circumstances we have, for example, is only 17% of the company is college educated, which I don't view as a negative, but I would say, like, it's a lot of people including myself, who have come up through the shop. And so we know how to fix cars right. We know how to take care of customers. It doesn't mean that we know how to take care of people. It doesn't mean that we know how to manage people, have critical conversations, negotiate well, communicate well. And so all of those are qualities that and skills that we basically assume that we have to train. And so we've set up weeks worth of training. For example, our general managers, we do 1 week, which is a cultural type of training. So they understand the company's, why, and what we stand for and what we're out to accomplish. The second week is kind of the nuts and bolts, the day-to-day, how do I do my job? The third week is in conjunction with Dale Carnegie, we put something together unique for our company, but it's the soft skills, the communication skills and the people skills that I think are really truly the harder part. So what I guess I'm saying is we make it a focus to train our leadership team because it's that important to our success. And we can't possibly go recruit 100% of our management team that already has those skills. So it's been a necessity to teach it.
Yeah, it sounds a lot like what we used to have to do in the military, because everybody comes in at the bottom of the military. We very rarely find a way to bring someone in at a higher level to do. Sometimes we can find ways to do that, but we've got to start everybody at the beginning and get them to the leadership positions we need them to be in. And so we train it all in-house ourselves. It sounds like that's worked out really well for you.
It has. Experience is definitely required too. You have to put the skills to use and get good at them. But we're a handful of years in now. We definitely see much positive effects from the training that we do, from the standpoint of, do the stores operate better? Do the shops operate better? You see it in the retention of people, because our industry has got a shortage of people. There's a shortage of technicians. And so when they can go work anywhere, they're not going to hang around and work for a bad leader. And so we see a big difference in the numbers, and the retention is a prime example of where those who have been through the training and are got a little bit of experience at what they've learned retain their people significantly better.
Yeah, well, if you're a young person and you're looking to get into a career that's going to make you some good money and keep you busy and teach you some things, it sounds like Matt's hiring.
Yeah, always. We spend a lot of time, in fact, trying to spread the word of what an opportunity the industry is. A lot of blue collar, if that's the word you want to use, really the skills industry are all short of people. And so supply and demand has kicked in a while back. And I think a little bit the world doesn't know just how, for example, our average technician make over $100,000 a year, and they get there within just a couple years. So I think it's an opportunity where the stereotypes and stigmas from a couple decades ago aren't true anymore. And so it's a big effort to attract people and let them know what an opportunity there is in our industry. And I believe in a lot of trade industries today.
I agree. I can't. I feel like it's really important to amplify that message anytime we get anytime we get the opportunity to amplify the message about the opportunities in the trades for young people and how you can make really good money learning a trade, more so than you might if you go get a bachelor's degree from a liberal arts college right now.
Yeah, and I don't want to come off as anti-college. I just want people to know there are other ways, because college isn't for everyone. It wasn't for me. My parents didn't set that goal for me. And even if they had, I wouldn't have had the money to do it. I would have had to go into a lot of debt to go. And at that time, remember, I literally fell into this by accident. So it's not like I had a dream career that I was working for either. And I feel like a lot of young people, it's kind of impossible, I think, at 18 years old. It's rare when you have your whole life figured out and know exactly what you want to do when you're graduating high school. So I think it's important for people to know that there's a diverse amount of opportunity out there where you can do really, really well.
Yeah, there's tons of opportunities when you're 18. Unless you know 100% for sure you want to go do something that you require a college degree for, like medicine or
That's
law
right.
or engineering, like I did. College will be there for you. You like go try some things. It's out there for you. So why is the shop manager such an important leader in your company, and how do they fit into your big picture?
Yeah, because they're really the culture of the company there locally. It's so big now that, part of the reason, behind my getting in front of a camera, getting on your podcast or others or my own, it all started with trying to do video communication to our own team because the company's so big now, it might be years before they literally meet me in person. And so I can't carry that culture on my own. Our whole management team has to do it. And really for that local shop, whether they love Crash Champions, like Crash Champions, or hate Crash Champions, it's all dependent on that manager that they report to. So there's such a key piece to the culture of the company, and whether or not people like working for us depends upon them.
Yeah, I think it's so important. It reminds me a lot of how we have squadrons in the Air Force, and the squadron commander is such an important role in making sure that squadron does what it does to fit into the big picture and helping, being the kind of the guardians of that culture. So we talked about opportunities for young people. Certainly there's opportunities to go work in your field as a technician, but also there's opportunities to be leaders, to be shop managers. What do you look for when you're keeping an eye out for those future shop managers, or really any emerging leader in your organization?
Yeah. So, first they have to want it. Talking somebody into wanting to be a leader or manage usually doesn't work. So first they have to have a desire for it. I think if I were to outline like two key skills that are a few key skills that are important. No, number one, communication is everything. So if you look at majority of people problems throughout the company, it usually can come down to miscommunication a lot of times. So ability to communicate is key. Sense of urgency is key, because that's one thing that you can't really inject into people, so to speak. Like they have to almost have it, their own drive and their own sense of urgency about things. And I think resilience is the other key, because you're going to have things go wrong. And so if the first thing goes wrong, takes you out, it's going to be a long, impossible road. And then, of course, the proactive management versus the firefighting is key to success as well. So those would be the four things that I would say are key: ability to communicate, sense of urgency, resilience, and manage proactively, and you'll do pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, those four are really, really hard to teach people. We do it in the military, but we have a couple of things like basic training and kind of keeping an ops tempo up that helps with that you don't necessarily have the luxury of in the civilian world. So
we have something too. Maybe I can, it's more advanced now because our CHRO, and they've developed actual tests that indicate, to us whether or not somebody's got the odds of being successful, and that would be in a management role or even a technician role. Like why put somebody in a role that the odds are they're not going to like it and not going to do very well at it. So we've got now we're to the point to where we test for this stuff, but earlier on we looked at, we did something we called the SWAN test that we learned, which is, in a leader, are they smart? And it doesn't mean like book smart, but are they able to put knowledge to practical use? And so that was a key component. The W is willing to work hard. The A was really their attitude, and then the N, and by attitude, really it's not attitude, it's ambition. And a good ambition. So not like I'm going to get over on you, but ambition as I want to do well. I want the company to do well. How do we do that? And then the N stands for nice. So if you're not nice to work with, if everybody hates working with you or for you, it's not going to do very well. So we simply looked at those 4 qualities in leaders early days, and we had a way of scoring it. And if you didn't come up with a minimum score in those 4 qualities, odds of success were pretty much 0.
I love everything about that because it's not terribly sophisticated, but it's
Not at
something
all.
that gives you an idea, and it's just better than guessing, right? Or just saying, okay, who's been here the longest?
Yeah, next man up is a terrible way to promote.
100%. Okay.
Or I wouldn't call it next man up. If they've qualified for it, I would more call it like last man standing. Like you're up. That's a horrible way to go about it. It's almost desperate.
Sometimes that's what it is, right? Whoever wants to be in charge take one step forward and everyone else takes one step back, right?
And we've done all that. I mean, we grew so fast. We've made every mistake you could think of and then some, I'm sure. So I'm not talking about this like we haven't made tremendous mistakes in any of these areas. You just try to eliminate them as much as possible and get better. We've gotten much better every year, as we've learned lessons, sometimes the hard way.
I think that's really important to emphasize because a lot of times, especially with a company that's grown rapidly like yours, the media, the press, the industry papers talk about the success and all the great things you did. And we don't always get to talk about what we struggled with and what we had to learn to get to where we are because we didn't know it already.
Yeah. Especially when you're going through acquisition, because our goals in an acquisition are to retain the customers and retain the employees. Like that's why you bought it. Otherwise, it's just a shop and equipment. You could open that on your own. It's really the customer base and the employees and the talent that you're after in the acquisition. So your first 2 goals are to keep the talent in the building and to keep the customers. And so sometimes you're just inheriting leadership because you don't know going into it if they're good or if they're going to align with your culture. So in an acquisition strategy, we found some great leaders along the way, and we've also found some bad ones. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, that's just how it goes. All right. I want to take a break from talking about the business. I want to talk about you a little bit. Are you ready to play a game?
Sure.
All right. The name of this game is Rapid Response. I'm going to ask you a series of questions. I'd like you to respond with the first thing that comes to your mind. Don't be fooled by the word rapid.
All right.
You don't need to give a one-word answer. Elaborate as much or as little as you'd like. We want to get to know Matt Ebert a little bit, okay?
All right. I like games.
Ready?
This will be good.
All right. Matt Ebert, rapid response round. Your time begins now. A podcast recommendation.
Oh, I guess I should recommend yours because I'm on it. But I listen to Diary of a CEO a lot. That's one I have several, but that's one that I listen to regularly.
Yeah, we appreciate the flattery here. We appreciate that you like being on the show, but I'm really trying to get to what's a podcast you listen to because maybe I don't listen to it and I can add it to my queue. So, and Diary of a CEO is a great one.
Yeah.
What is a practice you'd like to see more people embrace?
Oh man, looking at the good in things. It's so easy to, in personal life or in business, find the negative. You can find it on a spreadsheet instantly. You can find it on, you can nitpick the quality of anything. You can take offense to the way someone talks. You can look for the good. And I think there's a whole lot of exposing the faults in things. And I think we're imperfect people. Things are imperfect, and sometimes that makes them more attractive, more beautiful. So I wish, and it's something that I have to work really hard on, is accentuating the good things, being thankful for what is good, because I think there is a lot of good in a lot of our lives and in a lot of places.
It's something I have to work on as well, and my mom has always reminded me of that. But now I can say, when I'm struggling with it, I can say, what would Matt do? and besides my mom, have a little bit more someone else behind me on doing that. So, who is someone we should all be paying attention to?
Oh, interesting. Boy, that's a tough one. I don't know if I have anybody that I can give you.
Who is someone we're paying attention to?
I would say I see so many interesting things, and everything is politicized today, and it seems like the extremes win. And even if somebody's trying to do good, it's amazing. I mean, I think there's a young kid out there now who's exposed fraud in Minnesota, and I don't care if you're right or left. Like, nobody wants to see fraud, but instead, it hasn't turned out to he's a good guy for finding fraud. It's turned into death threats and everything else for him. So, that story will come and go, but it's amazing how much of what is the truth today. And if it weren't politicized, is somebody trying to do good or trying to do bad without the political lens on it? Because I think the political lens is either love it or hate it based on which camp you're in nowadays, and that's a shame.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. Is what's the good here again, right?
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry I didn't have a particular name for you.
Absolutely okay. Still a great answer.
Yeah.
What is either your get pumped up song or your walk on music?
DJ Khaled, All I Do Is Win.
That's in my playlist as well. That comes up a lot for me.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't like to win? And I do plenty of losing, don't get me wrong. But again, trying to emphasize the winning part of things, and there's momentum in winning. It's good.
That's great. Really positive. Great song. I think everybody probably knows it, but if you don't, check it out. The biggest influence in your life?
Biggest influence is my wife and kids, because they're what's most important. There's been a series of mentors, and now I'm constantly reading and constantly learning. So I seek mentors all the time, and it could be as much as just one book read or a podcast followed or whatever. But the biggest influence is definitely my wife and kids. My life is so much different. I wouldn't have sat at the kitchen table and planned having kids. I didn't have kids till I was in my 40s, because I probably really wasn't ready. But glad they're here, and they've definitely made my outlook on life a lot different.
That's great. What is a book everyone should read?
Think and Grow Rich. I mean, it's not one that probably everybody hasn't heard, but I've probably read that book 50 times. I think there's many that read it several times, but if you haven't, you definitely should. Maybe another one that I just like, there's a couple books by Tim Grover. One's called Relentless, one's called Winning, but he was Michael Jordan's trainer back in the day, Kobe Bryant's, Dwayne Wade's, and he talks about the mindset of those guys compared to others, and it really resonated with me. Those that, take on and control the game have a whole different mindset on things.
Great recommendations. What is your favorite springtime recreational activity?
I golf terribly and love watching baseball. So you said favorite. Probably baseball would trump my bad golf game.
Yeah. I play golf badly, and I love watching baseball as well. And we are not too far from spring training getting started here. So
ain't that crazy? It's January, but it'll be here before we know it.
Yeah, absolutely. What is your dream vacation spot?
Oh wow, I like anything with a pool and a beach and warm weather. Now my vacations though include Disneyland and Universal and skiing and stuff like that because of my kids. But if I had the choice, it'd have a beach and it'd be warm and sunny.
All right. What is a trend you're excited about?
I'm excited about the trend of again, frontline workers, blue collar jobs, getting sexy, for lack of a better word, again. I've watched decades of the stereotype of the jobs. They're not the jobs people want, and I'm excited to see it transform a little bit to where those are the jobs in demand and in need.
Guys, you can make over $100,000 a year working on cars, and you can grow a business to over $3 billion like Matt did. What's not sexy about that?
Yeah, right.
All right, last one. Favorite sports team or player?
I've been I keep giving you two answers of things, so I won't. Cubs would be my favorite, I think. We couldn't afford cable when I was a kid, and the Cubs were on WGN, so I was able to watch them as a kid. So, yes, for the favorite one. So there you go. But we've had some great runs in Chicago with the Bulls in the '90s, and the Bears are winning right now. So it's definitely a Bears town more than anything. So, but the one that I watched when I was young, that was a little bit unique, was the Cubs.
Yeah, I grew up in Connecticut with, following Boston sports, so I know what it's like to be part of a big sports town movement like that. And now that I live in Las Vegas, that's starting to build here, and it's really, no matter how the team is doing, it's really exciting to be part of a real sports town like Boston or Chicago.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, thank you for playing our game. It's nice to get to know you a little bit. Our other questions might not have gotten us to. So getting back to it, as we mentioned, you got a lot of your shops through acquiring other shops. Mm-hmm. What were some of the challenges bringing those shops into your culture, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, you face several challenges. We really got to, again, kind of look at things in a scoring matrix, but really, I would say in the acquisition game, you're looking for a quality business, one that aligns with how you operate, and what would end up happening is you end up paying a little more for those businesses because they're good businesses, and then you would find businesses that didn't operate that well at all. The equipment was wore out, the building wasn't that nice, but you could get it really cheap and turn it into something. And we did the whole gamut. So we did stuff that was perfectly aligned. It was beautiful shops, a great management team, and we'd pay up for that business, and then we would find those not so good businesses that we could get cheap, and we could spend some money on them, invest in the buildings and the equipment, attract better team and customers to it. So each one of them brought their unique challenges. When you got those good businesses, they were really proud of what they had built. And so the challenge there is a little bit of the culture, of not, and honestly, the whole reminiscent of the good old days happened within the Crash group too, because they remembered back when they saw me every day and when the company was small. So great businesses had the whole culture kind of where they would fight you a little bit because they were proud of what they had built. And then the others, where a lot of times it was the owner running it, and the owner was now stepping out, and we were going to have to put in a manager. So that was a big cultural shift for that team too, because they were used to seeing their owner, and sometimes he'd walk around on Friday with $100 bills in his pocket. Sometimes he'd take them to their house for dinner, and that's stuff that as a big company, you just can't do. So I say the challenge of it always was the culture. It's never a perfect fit, and there's always some kind of change. And so people tend to not like change. Even if it's change for the better, it's change, and change isn't received with open arms at first. So the biggest challenge in any type of acquisition was always implementing. It's always the change management piece.
Yeah, people do not like change. Even if they say they like it, they don't. We're very resistant to it, so it's always hard. I'm curious, you did a great job bringing your culture to these shops as you acquired them. Was there anything from any of these shops' culture or any of their practices that you adopted into the bigger company because you thought they were great ideas?
Oh yeah, from an operational playbook standpoint, there were many along the way, and at first we started with our playbook being really really vague. We put a lot of power in the hands of the shop manager and in the local leadership, because we wanted to empower them to make the right decisions, do the right thing for the car and for the customer. And then as it got bigger, we had to get things more defined. We still want to give them a lot of freedom to make the right decisions, but as it got bigger, we had to introduce more and more boundaries. And so that playbook developed from the operators within the company and from those that came in with their ideas. It's really an amalgam of all of it.
That's great. We talked a little bit about the private equity part, how the private equity helped you grow, some of the pieces where they helped you set up the deal that was really a attractive win-win for everybody. What led you to seek out private equity in the first place?
So I had grown through. I didn't come from any money at all. I cash advanced $100,000 on credit cards to start my own business. So I grew with that always. And after my partner financed his exit for me, I did a lot through. I acquired the buildings, invested in them, and I could always get financing on the buildings as long as I had the down payment. But to go borrow money for somebody's business in just a traditional banking setting is very difficult, because there's not a hard asset to lien. It's goodwill for the most part and some used equipment. So I grew through help from vendors, seller financing, and the SBA. I got to the point in 2018, the end of 2018, where I had a few acquisitions lined up for 2019 that I needed to find financing for the business. I had the real estate financing lined up, but I had maxed out the SBA. So I went to an investment banker that my accountant had recommended. I was just looking for mezzanine debt, somebody to do, a high cost financing instrument, so I could borrow to buy these three shops here in the local market. And they encouraged me to be open minded and talk to private equity as well, and some other options. And so, we looked at the gamut of options, from doing it with debt to bringing in a minor equity partner to a majority equity partner, to some who were interested in the real estate part of it, to some who weren't. And I kind of looked at all those options. I was really convinced I wasn't going to do something like that, because I had spent all those years wanting to buy out my partner. It's like, I don't really want to bring in another partner. But in the analysis of watching where the industry was headed, as I mentioned earlier, the other component that kind of hit my industry is the complexity of the vehicles. The vehicles have gotten so much different in the last 10 years. It's amazing. And so investing in the equipment and the training to keep up with the vehicles has been a major challenge as well. And so I saw that developing, as well as the trend to the industry continuing to consolidate heavy, and decided, taking on a large investor so that I could grow rapidly and keep up with the change in the industry was more important than keeping 100% ownership. So it's a little bit of the circumstances of the industry, the circumstances of my company, that led me in that direction. I had the option to do it and take on just debt, but I didn't know if I could keep up with where the industry was headed. And I also looked at, remember I said earlier that Chicago was the most consolidated market in the U.S. at the time. I wasn't ever taking any money out. I was always putting it back in to grow the business. And so when you look at, 10 years from now, or however many years from now, when I do want to retire, if that ever comes, I also thought about, well, if I am ever going to take money from this business, when I go to sell it, if I'm just a regional player in a market where the big guys already have a big footprint, will they really pay me what the business is worth? Because they wouldn't have to have it. And so from an exit standpoint, just keeping it myself and doing it with debt, the risks involved there, and then what would be the final reward? Would it be worth it? All those factors kind of led into, I felt the decision was to take on a big investor and grow it as quick as I could.
Yeah, so many important things to think about. This is kind of like you're giving us a master class on what to think about as you're trying to grow your business and how to acquire that funding. But so many things to think about, whether it's bringing on debt or bringing a partner onto your cap table. And now I know our audience. I know some of them have big dreams with their companies. They're thinking about the day they get to go pitch private equity investors.
Mm-hmm.
What's your advice about pitching private equity investors or any investors to try to get equity funding for your business?
Yeah, my advice is to position the business to get the most value from it. I didn't do that, to be honest, because I wasn't planning on selling. I was I was growing rapidly. So there's a lot of ways that I could have, slowed down the growth, paid attention to the profitability, got paid better. It still worked out great. But really, a business needs to be durable. It needs to be fundable. And it needs to be able to grow. And if you can get your business to be durable, and that means that positive cash flow, systems that can be repeated. If you can get it to be fundable and that others are excited about the business, it can pay for the debt that you take on. And if you have an opportunity to grow it organically or through acquisition, if you can accomplish those three things, you'll have plenty of options as to what you can do with the business. But if it's not durable, if it's not fundable, and if you can't grow it, nobody's going to want to invest in it. So solve those things, you'll create a lot of value for yourself and for your team. That's what I would say. And then when you are able to go and look, that's maybe a separate question, but there will be different private equity groups, different personalities, and picking the right one's important, the right one for you.
Such a great answer. I know an investor here in town in Vegas who, if he's watching this right now, he knows who he is. He's standing up, giving you a standing ovation right now for talking about making the business durable and fundable and all of that before you start looking for investment. And I'll probably send him this clip just to say, hey, you're not alone with this. So,
yep.
Now I'm curious. You've grown rapidly. You've had to make big changes across the entire organization. How do you get everyone on board with these big changes from top to bottom? That's a really big challenge where you have a big change you want to make at the top and you get it all the way down to where all of your technicians embrace it.
Yeah, so this comes from a place of having made plenty of mistakes in that area along the way. I would say as the company has grown, I've learned that in articulating the vision, I have to get more and more detailed. I use the example of I could say, we're going to go build a house, and I could just stop there and come on, everybody, let's go build a house. Well, I'm positive that the house you just envisioned in your mind is different than the house that I envisioned in my mind. How could it not be different? Yours might be 2-story, mine might be 1-story. Yours might have a 4-car garage, mine might have a 2-car garage. It could be red, it could be tan, it could be gray. It could have a slate roof, it could have a shingle. Like the details, if you want people to come along, matter so much. And so I've learned that in giving people the vision and direction and trying to, build the why and the how, all the details matter, where at first I probably didn't articulate it well enough. I probably still don't. But details matter in the vision. And I would say the other thing is keep the overall direction of the company simple. You can't concentrate on 20 things at a time, and you can't be tactical and over leverage attention to one thing and forget about the big picture and what you're doing. We spent a lot of time doing what I would call whack-a-mole, where you over concentrate on one thing and then something else falls off. Where now we've articulated the business into, we break it down into 5 buckets, really. We tell our general manager, you got five things to worry about. Number 1, we have to fix cars right. Number 2, you want to make your customers happy. Number 3, you want to make our insurance partners happy. Number 4, we want our employees to be happy. And number 5, we want to make money. So those 5 things are what any initiative that we have, they fall in those 5 buckets somewhere. And so then it becomes, well, this isn't the latest, greatest, newest thing. It's, look, these are the 5 things we're trying to accomplish. Here's a new tool to help us get there. Or here's a new way of doing it so that our customers are happy, or so it makes it easier for our employees. That's been kind of an evolution where it used to be initiative after initiative. Now it's more of like just almost over and over again, simple things that we're doing, and everything else is just in support of the big 5 things that we're trying to accomplish.
I love that. You talked about how cars have changed so much in the last decade. I've seen it too. I just got a new Jeep. My previous Jeep I had gotten in 2014, and I can't believe how different that Jeep is. Same type of model, but I can't believe how different it is now. But tell us about some of the tech you've adopted in the business, both in the shops and on the corporate side, to keep up.
Oh, on the shop side, look at everything today needs calibrated to the advanced driver assist systems in the car. You know, a mirror used to be a mirror. Now that mirror contains cameras or sensors of some sort. Same with a windshield. Say all the advanced driver assist systems that do the forward braking and the self parking and almost sometimes autonomous driving or semi-autonomous. All of that equipment lives on the perimeter of the vehicle, which is the first thing damaged in an accident. And so we have to have the equipment and the software to communicate with the vehicles and recalibrate all those safety systems for almost every repair. So on today's cars, so all of that equipment needed to be not only provided but also learned and taught. That would be one example. In the front office, the great thing about, you know, AI is the hot buzzword for every industry. We are finding AI helpful in the administrative side of our business, where it can help us identify, for example, quickly repair procedures so that we make sure that we're doing the right thing on the car. That research project has gotten a lot more efficient now with the onslaught of AI. You can get an estimate started just from photos and AI. You still need a person to complete it and get the details correct, but it is making our front of shop people much more efficient.
Yeah, kids, if you want to get into a sexy tech area, this sounds like a great job.
Yeah, it's different than it used to be. You're just as likely to be holding a tablet today as you are a welder or a grinder or a paint gun. So it's definitely a different world than it was 10 years ago.
I love it. Are you a tech guy in your personal life? What kind of tech do you use?
I am not. In fact, I wonder who's asking for all these features on a car, because I just like to get in mine and drive it. But I will say I'm excited for, you know, I mean, there's those doom and gloom about AI is going to be the end of us out there too. But in the meantime, I'm excited for what it's bringing to our business, and I'm sure many are to their business. And hopefully we figure out how to make it safe for humankind as all that technology that I don't understand or it's way over my head, but a lot of smart people hopefully figure it out and do it responsibly.
Yeah, I love it. I'm excited about it too, and I know we're going to find a way to do it responsibly. So what's coming up for you and Crash Champions for the next few months?
Yeah, we've spent the last few years, we did a big acquisition of a bankrupt company in 2022, and that has been an adventure because a lot more was broken than I knew. It's been a lot harder, and the industry's been on a major decline because of how much insurance premiums went up. So customers' insurance premiums over the last few years skyrocketed. That causes the consumer to be hesitant to make another claim for fear they might get dropped or their insurance go up even higher. So our industry is kind of at a point to where now insurance premiums are starting to come down a little bit. They're definitely not increasing like they have been. So we're at the point to where we should have a bit of a tailwind rather than a headwind from an industry perspective. We've been spending those 3 years really we've way past integrating the company, but now we've really made the company way better over the course of 3 years. And so we slowed down the growth to get tremendously better. I think the results from getting tremendously better are about to show, and then we can pick up the rapid growth again. So it's an exciting year from us, because I think we're at where we're going to start to see the scorecard show just how much better that we've gotten. And then that will enable us to start the rapid growth again, which growth is always exciting.
That's great to hear. We wish you guys the best and good luck going forward. As we're wrapping up, is there anything else you want to leave us with?
No, other than just appreciate the time to express some of the things that I've learned, and hope others found it beneficial and maybe a little entertaining. But mostly, you always want to share the things you've learned. Hopefully, somebody gets a great idea or avoids a mistake that I've learned along the way. Thanks for the opportunity to do it.
Well, that's a great piece of advice to leave everybody with, is to share what you know with someone who's coming up behind you on the path. This has been so great. This has been a privilege to talk to you today, Matt. I want to thank you for joining us. Tell us where everyone can find you so they can also reach out, and thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, all social media platforms. Matt Ebert CC is the handle, so you can find me, direct message me again on any of them. So Matt Ebert CC.
And we will put all those links for you folks in the episode description, so you don't have to go look them up. Matt, thank you again for joining us. I want to thank all of you for watching and listening today. If you found this conversation with Matt valuable, go ahead and share it with someone who can use it. There's so much good stuff in this one. Leave us a comment. Don't forget to subscribe. And while I'm asking you for favors, go ahead and give us a 5-star review if you're on a platform that lets you do that. It helps us build our audience and get great conversations like this one out to more people. So we've got a lot more interviews coming your way. Go out there, do great things today. Onward and upward.